To say that Stephen King is a legend who transformed the horror genre single-handedly and forever would be true in every sense, but still an understatement. I mean, the man's been behind movies like It, The Shining, Shawshank Redemption, and The Green Mile, to name just a few. Naturally, there are several movies that went rather unnoticed or didn't receive the love and attention they deserved, but we're going to change that today by exploring 20 underappreciated Stephen King movies that deserve more love. So we're ready to get into things, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Needful Things, 1993. In the quiet town of Castle Rock, Maine, a mysterious fellow named Leland Gaunt arrives claiming he's from Akron, Ohio. He opens up an antique shop called Needful Things, where locals find items they crave. In fact, these can change the lives of the residents, like a pendant that heals pain or a toy predicting horse races. Gaunt's prices are part cash, part favors, which turn out to be cruel pranks against neighbors. A boy named Brian Rusk is his first customer. He gets a rare Mickey Mantle baseball card for pocket change and a trick on cranky Wilma Jerzyk. Soon, Wilma feuds with Nettie Cobb in a blowout that ends with both of them dead. Meanwhile, Buster Danforth Keaton, who embezzled the town's tax money, falls under Gaunt's spell when he buys a game predicting horse racing outcomes to cover his debts. Father Meehan and Reverend Willie Rose also square off after Gaunt sells each man something that rekindles old rivalries. Sheriff Alan Pangborn senses trouble when these favors spark chaos and a trail of bloodshed. As Gaunt's manipulations intensify, residents turn on each other. Pangborn tries to expose Gaunt's true nature, while the antique dealer gleefully watches his sinister handiwork tear Castle Rock apart. Needful Things has one of the more potent Stephen King premises. The plot gets a boost from strong performances, especially Max von Sydow's suave but chilling Leland Gaunt. Though some King adaptations feel hokey, this one balances dark humor and tension, spotlighting everyday folks succumbing to greed and paranoia. True, it's not the most refined horror flick. A few subplots seem rushed, and the narrative can feel busy with so many townspeople involved. Still, it entertains by highlighting the toxic underside of small-town life and how cheap desires can boil into real violence and sometimes death. It's hardly a groundbreaking milestone, but if you love King's brand of slow-burn dread and moral comeuppance, it's worth your time. Silver Bullet, 1985. Silver Bullet focuses on siblings Jane and Marty Coleslaw in Tarker's Mills, Maine. They don't always get along, but that changes when a string of brutal murders shakes their sleepy town in 1976. A railway worker is decapitated, a woman contemplating suicide is slain, and even Marty's buddy is killed. Desperate townsfolk form a vigilante posse, which ends in disaster when the unseen killer slaughters several of them in the woods. Local Reverend Lester Lowe begins having terrifying visions of his congregation turning into werewolves, leaving him rattled. Meanwhile, Marty's spunky Uncle Red gives him a custom wheelchair bike, the Silver Bullet, along with fireworks for an after-hours 4th of July. Marty sets them off on a bridge and narrowly escapes the beast, injuring it with a rocket. Worried, he teams up with Jane to hunt for anyone with a fresh eye wound. They discover Reverend Lowe hiding a monstrous secret. The final face-off has an actual silver bullet, which might be the only way to stop the werewolf's reign of terror. Small-town paranoia, sibling bonds, and a deadly lycanthrope combine for a classic 80s creature tale. Silver Bullet won't dethrone the all-time werewolf champs, but it's a fun 80s horror film. The whodunit aspect feels predictable, clues point in one direction early on, but the film's heart lies in an interaction between Corey Haim's underdog Marty and Gary Busey's wild yet loving Uncle Red. The werewolf effects aren't groundbreaking, though the nighttime chase is thrilling. It balances gore with a sprinkle of comedic banter, capturing those old-school King elements. The biggest charm is its small-town setting, where fear creeps under every porch light. With a lean runtime and a straightforward plot, it's breezy viewing for fans of nostalgic monster mayhem. If you like your werewolf stories with a pinch of freshness, Silver Bullet won't disappoint.
Goodbye.
1922, 2017. In rural Nebraska, 1922 follows Wilfred "Wilf" James, a farmer determined to keep his land. His wife, Arlette, wants to sell and move to Omaha, but Wilf manipulates their teenage son, Henry, into helping murder her to stop the sale. They get Arlette drunk, slice her throat, and dump her body in a dry well, then toss a cow down to hide the corpse. The sheriff suspects foul play, but lacks proof. Henry, Tormented by guilt, runs away with his pregnant sweetheart, Shannon, robbing folks as the Sweetheart Bandits. Wilf sinks into paranoia, certain that Arlette's ghost and a swarm of rats are haunting. He lets the farm rot while ignoring the caved-in barn roof and a festering hand wound. Arlette's spirit reappears, revealing Henry's tragic death. Shannon dies from a gunshot, their unborn baby is lost, and Henry takes his own life. Racked with guilt, Wilf drinks himself into a deeper misery. The rats and his dead wife's voice push him towards madness. In this bleak spiral, Wilf learns that you can bury a body, but you can't bury the weight of murder. 1922 excels as a slow-burn descent into guilt and paranoia. Thomas Jane's performance is magnetic. His drawl and hunched posture sell Wilf's stubborn pride and unraveling mind. This Netflix adaptation captures King's knack for rural Gothic tropes. From creaking farmhouses and creeping rats to the good old moral rot, you've got a little bit of everything. Some viewers might crave more action, but the drawn-out tension suits the dusty, oppressive setting. It's not a jump scare fest, but a story of how one crime triggers a domino effect of misery. Director Zach Hilditch keeps the tone moody and claustrophobic, which makes 1922 a quietly haunting watch for those who appreciate character-driven horror and the sting of karmic payback. Mr. Harrigan's Foe, 2022. Young Craig Poole bonds with wealthy retiree John Harrigan after his mom passes away. Craig visits Harrigan a few times a week to read books to him, and the two of them develop an unexpected friendship. When Craig wins $3,000 from a lottery ticket Harrigan gifts him, and also gets his first iPhone for Christmas, he decides to buy Harrigan one too. Despite his old school ways, Harrigan grows attached to this gadget. After Harrigan dies, Craig is devastated. During the funeral, he tucks Harrigan's phone into the coffin. Later, Craig calls that number to ease his grief and somehow gets cryptic text replies. Trouble arises when a school named Kenny terrorizes Craig. In desperation, Craig calls Harrigan's phone again. Kenny soon dies under suspicious circumstances. Spooked, Craig upgrades his phone and tries to cut the connection. Then, a beloved teacher dies in a drunk driving accident. The driver gets a lenient sentence, so Craig calls Harrigan one more time in anger. That driver also turns up dead. Terrified by this ghostly link, Craig vows never to dial Harrigan's number again, but it's not what happens next. Mr. Harrigan's Phone doesn't rely on gore or jump scares. Instead, it explores grief, guilt, and how technology might reach beyond the grave. In this case, within the grave. It's a slow burn tale set in a quiet main background that grows unsettling as texts arrive from a dead man's phone. The stakes feel intimate rather than high octane. The story resonates most when it addresses Craig's need for guidance and how that leads him down a darker path. Some may find this one a bit soft for a Stephen King adaptation, but the subtle chills stick around even after the credits. This is one of those movies that serves well as an introspective horror while sprinkling just enough dread throughout. Maximum Overdrive, 1986. When Earth drifts through the trail of the rogue comet Rhea-M, machines worldwide suddenly come to life with a murderous streak. A bascule bridge in the city flips up without warning, dumping trucks into a not-so-nice fate. Soda machines launch deadly projectiles, and an arcade machine zaps a patron. At the Dixie Boy truck stop in North Carolina, ex-con cook Bill Robinson sees customers mauled by electric knives and gas pumps. Driverless trucks, including one sporting a creepy green goblin face, encircle the diner and trap everyone inside. A newlywed duo, Connie and Curtis, narrowly escape a rampaging tow truck and reach the Dixie Boy. The truck stop's owner, Bubba Hendershot, reveals a stash of weapons which helps the survivors fight back when a heavy-duty platform truck rolls in wielding a mounted machine gun. Forced to refuel these mechanical monsters, Bill suspects the comet's influence might fade soon. He rallies the group to escape by boat, but not before blasting several vicious rigs with rockets. In this battle of humans versus homicidal hardware, the big question is whether the machines run out of murder fuel or the people run out of luck. Maximum Overdrive is Stephen King's one-time directing gig, and it's a chaotic thrill ride of possessed vehicles and over-the-top mayhem. Critics hammered it for clunky dialogue and patchy storytelling, but it found a cult following among fans who dig its rambunctious spirit. AC/DC's driving soundtrack adds a rowdy edge to scenes of trucks gone wild. While it never fully capitalizes on the paranoia of technology turning against us, there's a bizarre charm in the carnage. Its biggest pull is simply the fact that machines on a rampage can be hard for scrambling humans to fight back. If you can embrace Campy's 80 vibes and suspend disbelief, you'll probably get a kick out of this mechanical meltdown.
Born in sin? Come on in.
Storm of the Century, 1999. In 1989, a monstrous blizzard pounds Little Tall Island, Maine, but the real threat shows up in the form of Andre Lenoge, a weird stranger who kills an elderly resident and strolls into town. Lenoge reveals folks' ugliest secrets as if reading their diaries, unspooling years of shame. Constable Mike Anderson arrests him, yet Lenoge easily slips away while repeating his cryptic line,
"Give me what I want and I'll go away."
"Give me what I want and I'll go away." Under his influence, neighbors commit murder and suicide. Everyone huddles in the town hall where Lenoge hijacks the TVs to warn that refusing him means doom. During a tense town meeting, Lenoge states his price. He wants a child to raise as his heir. If they deny him, he'll make good on that ominous dream of the entire population walking into the ocean. Despite Mike's pleas to stand strong, Fear wins. They hold a lottery and pick Mike's young son, Ralphie. Lenoge departs with the boy in supernatural form, vanishing into the storm. The islanders vow silence, but the deed weighs heavy on Mike, who never forgives the townsfolk or his wife for offering up their own in exchange for survival. Story of the Century is kind of like Needful Things. A creepy stranger manipulates a small town through their dark secrets. Written straight for TV by Stephen King, it spreads out in a 3-part miniseries, giving it room for slow tension and an unsettling atmosphere. Colm Feore's Lenoge exudes understated menace. No jump scares, just quiet dread as he peels back each resident's sins. Some scenes feel padded, but that drawn-out pace lets the storm's claustrophobia build. The moral dilemma is King's real hook. Do people sacrifice one child or risk everyone? The final outcome delivers a haunting gut punch, the townsfolk's guilt left simmering. Carrie, 2002. In this adaptation of the classic, police interviews frame the story of Carrie White's disappearance following a catastrophic prom night. Carrie is a shy high schooler tormented by popular girls led by Chris Harrigan. After gym class one day, Carrie panics when she gets her first period in the locker room. Instead of sympathizing, the other girls ridicule her until Miss Desjardins intervenes. Principal Morton tries to send Carrie home but keeps mixing up her name, which triggers a telekinetic jolt. Carrie realizes she can move objects with her mind. Chris refuses detention for Carrie and gets banned from prom. Sue Snell, feeling guilty, urges her boyfriend Tommy to invite Carrie instead. Carrie's fanatically religious mother, Margaret, tries to keep her home, but Carrie stands firm. On prom night, Chris and her boyfriend Billy orchestrate a cruel prank on Carrie, not knowing what they were getting into. They dump a bucket of pig's blood on Carrie and Tommy when they win prom king and queen titles. The bucket knocks Tommy unconscious, and Carrie unleashes her powers, locking everyone inside the prom. A deadly inferno ensues, and she escapes into a night of more destruction. The movie wraps these events with Detective Mulcahy grilling survivors who can't fully explain Carrie's telekinesis or her ultimate fate. Carrie uses a post-disaster interview structure to put a fresh spin on Stephen King's iconic tale. The film expands on the original story but runs over 2 hours, which sometimes drags. Key scenes, the locker room humiliation, Carrie's blossoming powers, the prom from hell remain potent, and the telekinetic rampage satisfies any craving for supernatural havoc. Performances are solid to say the least. I mean, not Oscar-worthy, but still good. Angela Bettis delivers a fragile yet intense Carrie, and Patricia Clarkson's Margaret is unsettling in her quiet zealotry. It can't eclipse the legendary 1976 version, but it offers a different perspective on and extreme religious control. If you're into more detailed backstories and a modern twist, this adaptation might intrigue. Cat's Eye, 1985. Cat's Eye is a trio of short Stephen King tales linked by a wandering tabby that sees a spectral little girl begging for help. First comes Quitters Inc. Dick Morrison joins an offbeat program to quit smoking run by a hard-nosed supervisor named Vinnie Donati. Their success rate is 100% because they torture loved ones if you light up again. They demonstrate by shocking the cat in a floor electrode cage, warning Dick they'll do the same to his wife. Terrified, Dick fights his cravings, aware Donati's men watch his every move. Next, The Ledge features gambler Johnny Norris blackmailed by a crime boss, Kressner, into crossing a narrow ledge around a skyscraper. If Norris survives, Kressner promises freedom, but it's all a twisted game. The cat reappears as a silent observer when tables turn on the smug gangster. Finally, General shows the cat adopted by young Amanda. A tiny troll creeps into her bedroom at night, planning to steal her breath. The cat squares off against the knife-wielding goblin, proving cats can be protectors as well as harbingers. Each segment runs with a different vibe, darkly comedic, suspenseful, and fantastical, but they mesh under a single thread of of danger and desperation. Cat's Eye works as a quick, varied sampler of King's storytelling. The first segment, Quitters Inc., mixes comedy and cruelty. James Woods sells the anxiety of a man facing brutal anti-smoking tactics. The Ledge nails the tension of a high-altitude gamble, although the payoff is a bit predictable. General feels lighter, giving a whimsical battle between the cat and a mischievous troll. The anthology format can feel slightly disjointed, but each story stands decently on its own. The production looks polished for an 80s horror omnibus, and the feline cameo linking the chapters adds a fun touch. It's not a jump-out-of-your-seat scarefest, but for a breezy King fix, Cat's Eye delivers more than enough suspense and quirky chills. The Running Man, 1987. In a totalitarian 2017, the USA keeps its people glued to a savage TV show called The Running Man, where convicts get a shot at freedom if they survive lethal stalkers. Ben Richards, a police pilot, is framed for murdering civilians after refusing to gun down unarmed rioters. He escapes prison with 2 rebels, but the game's host, Damon Killian, recaptures him and throws him into the arena. Richards teams up with his friends to outsmart themed assassins like Buzzsaw, Dynamo, and Fireball. A skeptical Amber Mendez, who once doubted Richards, uncovers footage proving his innocence and gets tossed into the show herself. The pair find out that previous winners were actually killed and that everything is staged for ratings. When Richards starts besting stalkers on live TV, fans cheer him on, forcing Killian to negotiate. But Richards refuses any deal. In the final act, Richards seizes control of the broadcast, exposes the truth, and sends Killian on a one-way trip into a deadly rocket sled. With the show and the government propaganda crumbling, Richards walks away free, a triumphant underdog toppling a sadistic media empire. The Running Man dishes up classic 80s sci-fi cheese, complete with Arnold Schwarzenegger's punchy one-liners and a critique on sensationalized media. It's loosely based on King's novel, trading the book's bleak tone for action-packed escapism. Richard Dawson brings a sly realism to Damon Killian, channeling his real-life game show host past. Some of the costumes and set designs look a bit dated, but the over-the-top fights with flamboyant stalkers are part of its charm. Beneath the campy vibes lies a satire on how we devour violence as entertainment. Though it's not a top-tier sci-fi masterpiece, it still serves as an energetic, tongue-in-cheek commentary on hype-driven media and government spin. 1408, 2007. Mike Enslin is a jaded writer who churns out books debunking hauntings and ghosts, and he's sure it's all bunk. One day, he receives a mysterious postcard with the message, "Don't enter 1408," tied to the Dolphin Hotel in New York. Intrigued, he demands that exact room, despite the frantic warnings of manager Gerald Olin, who insists 56 people have died there over the past 95 years. Mike shrugs it off until the clock radio flips to a 60-minute countdown and ghosts of past victims appear. He also sees flashbacks of his late daughter Katie and his dying father. Every attempt to escape fails. Doors vanish, windows slam shut, and the room flips between intense heat and sub-zero cold, wrecking Mike's laptop call for help. A ghostly double of Mike urges his estranged wife Lily to enter the room herself. Reality bends further when Mike seemingly wakes in a hospital. Subtle clues tell him he's still trapped in 1408. The countdown resets, and a mysterious voice offers him express checkout by suicide. Defiant, Mike rigs a Molotov cocktail and sets 1408 on fire. Surviving the ordeal, he reunites with Lily and finds his damaged tape recorder still playing Katie's voice, proving that those horrors were disturbingly real. 1408 delivers old-school chills anchored by John Cusack's one-man tour de force. Director Mikhail Hafstrom stacks each scene with tension, letting dread build to near unbearable levels. It's a Stephen King freakout that balances supernatural spookiness with a deeper grief over Mike's lost child. Cusack's performance, reminiscent of a younger Dustin Hoffman, keeps the film's orbit steady. His desperation and sarcastic humor feel genuine as reality unravels around him. While some critics see the final act as an intense shock therapy session, 1408 mostly succeeds by playing on a classic horror vibe. Haunted hotel, locked room, creeping paranoia. It's not flawless, but fans of King's shorter works or claustrophobic ghost stories will appreciate how effectively it sets the stage for Cusack's bracing plunge into madness. Cujo, 1983. In rural America, the Trenton family is under pressure. Vic's big advertising pitch is failing, and Donna struggles with guilt after a fling with an old boyfriend. Meanwhile, a sweet lumbering Saint Bernard named Cujo wanders too close to a cave and gets bit on the nose by a rabid bat. He belongs to Joe Camber, a rough-around-the-edges mechanic, but no one spots his early rabies symptoms. Joe's wife and son leave town for a visit. Cujo grows vicious, murdering a neighbor and eventually killing Joe himself. Vic goes away on business, leaving Donna and their young son son Tad to drive the battered Ford Pinto to Joe's place for repairs. The car's alternator dies on arrival, and Cujo, now fully rabid, launches relentless attacks. Trapped in sweltering heat with no water, Donna and Tad face dehydration and terror as Cujo snaps at windows and then even bites Donna when she tries to escape. Vic realizes something's wrong, but by the time authorities reach Camber's property, Cujo has mauled the sheriff. Donna finally decides to save Tad by fighting back. Grabbing a broken baseball bat, she faces the raging dog, driving its jagged end into Cujo. Her son nearly succumbs to heat and fear, but Donna rescues him just as Vic arrives. They embrace, battered but alive. Cujo traps viewers in an unbearably intense scenario, a rabid dog versus a mom and child stuck in a dead car. Critics call it spectacularly well made but nearly unwatchable because the tension rarely lets up. Dee Wallace brings raw fierceness to Donna, and young Danny Pintaro is heartbreakingly convincing. Louis Teague's direction keeps the mood relentlessly grim, though some say it's a bit one-note or predictable. Realism is its greatest scare tactic. Anyone who's experienced car trouble or a menacing dog can imagine the horror. While detractors cite unsympathetic characters and pacing lulls, fans argue Cujo's claustrophobic dread stays with you. It's no cackling demon or cosmic monster, it's just a beloved pet turned lethal. That alone makes this King adaptation a credible, gut-churning staple for horror buffs. Apt Pupil, 1998. Todd Bowden is your average 16-year-old in 1980s Southern California, till he discovers that neighbor Arthur Denker is actually Kurt DeSander, a Nazi war criminal. Instead of calling the cops, Todd grows fixated on Nazi atrocities, blackmailing DeSander into recounting his gruesome past. Soon, Todd's grades tank, he obsesses over genocide, and even forces DeSander to wear an SS uniform he buys from a costume shop. The tables turn when DeSander blackmails Todd right back, threatening to expose Todd's fascination he doesn't shape up in school. Posing as Todd's grandfather, DeSander helps Todd fool his teachers. Fueled by old horrors, DeSander then tries to kill a homeless man who recognizes him. He suffers a heart attack, calls Todd for help, and Todd finishes the murder to protect both of hospitalized. DeSander shares a room with a Holocaust survivor who identifies him. Police move in, but outside, neo-Nazis rally, making DeSander's situation hopeless. He commits suicide. Meanwhile, Todd delivers a valedictorian speech referencing Icarus's downfall, leaving the audience clueless about his dark secrets. When Todd's counselor uncovers Todd's deception, Todd threatens to destroy his reputation with false accusations. Todd proves he's learned too well from his ex-Nazi mentor. Cruelty and manipulation are second nature to him now. Apt Pupil brims with dread, propelled by Ian McKellen's terrifying portrayal of a former Nazi and Brad Renfro's chilling transformation into a strange teen. John Ottman's lean editing and moody score heighten the psychological tension. While not every plot move feels plausible, critics praise this film for delivering moments of real menace, like DeSander scaring a fellow patient even while comatose. It's brutal and close to brilliant, though some believe it never really dives deep into the morality it teases. Ultimately, it's a dark study of how evil can seep into impressionable minds. Bryan Singer ratchets up suspense, but the story's contrivances and sensational elements may leave viewers uneasy. Still, it ranks among the stronger King adaptations for those craving an unflinching look at human darkness.
Mouse.
Gerald's Game, 2017. Jesse and Gerald Burlingame hope to revive their marriage at a secluded Alabama lake house. Gerald, freshly dosed with Viagra, handcuffs Jesse to the bedpost for a bit of roleplay, but she quickly nixes the idea. Heated words fly, and Gerald suddenly collapses from a heart attack, leaving Jesse chained and alone. Hours pass, a stray dog wanders in, munching on Gerald's body. Jesse, dehydrated and terrified, starts seeing visions of her dead husband mocking her, while an idealized version of herself urges her to face long-buried trauma. Flashbacks reveal her father's. Now she's locked to a bed, forced to confront both her past and the present horror. Stranger still, a looming Moonlight Man figure might be real, especially when the dog reacts to it. Jesse locates a glass of water on the headboard and uses the slip's tag as a straw to sip, but it's not enough. Desperate, she smashes the glass and slices her wrist, using blood as lubrication to slide her hand free by degloving it. She escapes the house, comes face to face with the alleged man, and flees by car. The rescue that follows might just crack open her illusions, leading her to confront the deeper truths behind that haunting silhouette and the wounds she'd never healed. Gerald's Game spins a claustrophobic nightmare, with Carla Gugino's raw, unflinching performance driving the tension. Director Mike Flanagan keeps things intimate and unnerving. Both shots capture each sweaty breath, each tortured thought. Critics praise its arrestingly suspenseful vibe, soaked in psychological horror rather than monsters lurking under the bed, though there is a memorable glimpse of gore that isn't for the faint of heart. Bruce Greenwood, as Gerald, remains a haunting figure despite an early death. The film tackles channels repressed trauma, showing King's knack for internal demons over jump scares. While some find the final stretch too explanatory, it's largely a daring adaptation, showcasing Flanagan's ability to blend heartbreak with a few good spine tingles. Gerald's game hits hard on both a psychological and a visceral level. Christine, 1983. Back in 1957 Detroit, a red 1958 Plymouth Fury crashes a factory worker's hand and claims another's life. Decades later, in 1978 California, nerdy high schooler Arnie Cunningham spots that same beaten-up Plymouth in a stranger's yard. Arnie ignores his buddy Dennis's warning and buys Christine, soon pouring heart and soul into restoring it at Will Darnell's rundown garage. As Christine begins to gleam, Arnie's demeanor shifts. His sweet nature wraps into hostility, worrying his parents and his best friend. Dennis uncovers Christine's spooky backstory. Her previous owner's family all died mysteriously around the car. When Arnie's new girlfriend Lee almost chokes to death inside Christine, she refuses to ride in it again. Meanwhile, bullies who trashed Christine wind up violently murdered by the car itself. Christine roars and flames, hunts them down, then magically repairs any damage. Enraged by Christine's hold on Arnie, Lee and Dennis plot to destroy the possessed machine. They lure Christine to Darnell's garage, where Dennis uses a bulldozer to crush the Fury. Arnie, still enthralled, dies in the showdown. Christine fights to the bitter end, but eventually gets squashed into a heap of metal. In a final twist, the remains twitch, suggesting the malevolent spirit might still lurk under the shiny chrome. Christine is ridiculous, yet unforgettably stylish. John Carpenter's direction injects sly humor into a devilish car premise. Keith Gordon's Arnie evolves from timid teen to possessed rebel, reflecting the lure of power and obsession. Critics praise the stellar effects. Christine's self-repairs and mesmerizing sequences, and the flickering headlights in the dark have a spooky charm. Some feel the film stalls in pacing or that it's too campy to be scary, but many others see it as a fun, flaming auto spectacle. Carpenter's love of 50s rock and sleek cinematography gives Christine a weird nostalgia that's half horror, half muscle car fetish. While it might not rank among King's scariest adaptations, it's undeniably a cult favorite for fans who enjoy a well-crafted tale of supernatural automotive vengeance.
You're more than money. You're mine now. Go.
Dolores Claiborne, 1995. Dolores Claiborne had spent years working as a housekeeper for wealthy, elderly Vera Donovan on Little Tall Island, Maine. One afternoon, a heated argument ended with Vera tumbling down the stairs. Dolores stands over her with a rolling pin when the mailman arrives, so the police believe she killed Vera. The news forces Dolores' estranged daughter, Selena, a big city journalist battling substance abuse, to return, skeptical of her mother's innocence. Locals still remember Dolores' husband Joe dying 18 years prior under suspicious circumstances. John Mackey, the detective on that case, wants to nail Dolores now. Flashbacks reveal that Joe was a violent drunk who molested teenage Selena. Dolores found out, tried to protect her daughter, and sought advice from Vera. Vera confessed she'd engineered her own husband's accident, convincing Dolores to take the reins. Dolores later provoked Joe to fall down a well, but the island never bought her story. In the present, Vera's will names Dolores the sole heir. Selena denies her father's abuse until she recovers repressed memories. Realizing the truth, she defends her mother at the coroner's inquest. The flustered detective drops the case. Mother and daughter share a brief moment of healing on the ferry wharf, leaving the island's persistent rumors behind them. Dolores Claiborne is a fierce mother-daughter drama wrapped in a murder mystery. Critics applaud Kathy Bates' commanding performance, showing Dolores' grit and desperation in a male-dominated community. Director Taylor Hackford balances flashbacks with grim realism, though some feel the layered structure slows the pace. Still, Jennifer Jason Leigh's portrayal of Selena intensifies the emotional turmoil, especially as she uncovers hidden trauma. The film might tie its threads too neatly in the end, but watchers mostly love its psychological weight. For a King adaptation absent supernatural monsters, it's a haunting ride that mines deep anger and heartbreak, carried by robust performances, a surprisingly nuanced script. Dreamcatcher 2003. Four lifelong pals, Jonesy, Beaver, Pete, and Henry, head to a Maine cabin for their annual hunting trip. As kids, they rescued an outcast named Duddits from bullies, receiving telepathic powers they jokingly call the Line. During their trip, the forest animals flee in panic and military helicopters announce a quarantine. The friends take in a sick wanderer, Rick, who dies horrifically, birthing a worm-like alien that kills Beaver. Another larger alien named Mr. Gray then possesses Jonesy's body. Henry and Pete split up. Pete gets captured by Mr. Gray, who needs the group's childhood bond to reach Duddits. Meanwhile, Colonel Abraham Curtis leads a jaded special ops unit that has battled these aliens, Ripley, for years, intending to nuke them. Henry teams with Captain Owen Underhill, who rebels against Curtis's plans to wipe out the quarantined people. Mr. Grey devours Pete and pushes on towards a reservoir, aiming to release the aliens, but Henry snatches Duddits, believing he's key to humanity's salvation. At the reservoir, Duddits reveals he's part alien and sacrifices himself to destroy Mr. Grey, freeing Jonesy. The alien threat ends in a final explosion of gore, leaving Henry alive to mourn his fallen friends. Their telepathic link, born from kindness towards Duddits, proves crucial in stopping a much larger catastrophe. Dreamcatcher blends King's classic buddy dynamic with alien invasion tropes, creating a genre mashup that's wild, overstuffed, but oddly appealing. Lawrence Kasdan's direction tries balancing cosmic terror, childhood nostalgia, and comedic banter. The result charms some viewers who enjoy seeing telepathy, parasitic aliens, and government conspiracies collide. Others criticize the script for chaotic story threads, body horror worms, telepathic kids turned into adults, an unhinged colonel, all competing for attention. But it remains memorable for its R-rated gore, strong cast chemistry, and a certain boldness in weaving together two distinct brands of weird. Despite flaws, Dreamcatcher is famous to King fans who appreciate a mix of nostalgic camaraderie and grisly, twisty sci-fi. It's neither perfect nor subtle, it is hard to forget. Firestarter, 1984. College students Andy McGee and Vicky Tomlinson join a secret government test with a mild hallucinogen, Lot 6. Others suffer dire results, but Andy gains telepathic influence and Vicky can read minds. They have a daughter, Charlie, whose pyrokinetic power dwarfs her parents' gifts. The shady agency behind Lot 6, nicknamed The Shop, wants Charlie as a living weapon. Andy returns home one day to find Vicky tortured and killed while agents snatch Charlie. He rescues his daughter using his mind push ability, but it weakens each time. They hide with a kindly farmer, Irv Manders, fending off more shop agents when Charlie unleashes a fiery defense. Desperate, father and daughter take shelter in a remote cabin. Andy tries writing letters to expose the shop, but Captain Hollister dispatches John Rainbird, crafty operative. Rainbird abducts them, keeping Andy drugged and Charlie under watch. For time, Charlie's powers soar. Rainbird pretends to be her friend, planning to kill her once her power is fully tested. Andy, realizing his push is still effective, orchestrates an escape. Rainbird ambushes them and fatally shoots Andy, but Charlie's rage ignites the facility. She engulfs buildings and agents in flames, unstoppable. Last, Charlie flees and returns to the Manders farm. Soon, he heads back to New York to reveal her story to a major newspaper, ensuring the shop's secrets will finally surface. Firestarter harnesses that classic 80s vibe, featuring a young Drew Barrymore as Charlie, a pyrokinetic kid who can torch entire rooms. The premise is outlandish, but director Mark L. Lester keeps the action speedy. Viewers brace for Charlie's inevitable fiery outbursts. Critics often call it faithful to King's novel, though some say that loyalty bogs it down with extra fluff. Barrymore's performance is the film's heartbeat, flipping from sweet to fiercely intimidating in a flash. George C. Scott's portrayal of a government assassin is also pretty amazing if you ask us. While some find the pacing uneven and the plot too thin, Firestarter remains memorable for delivering old-school King thrills. If you enjoy telekinetic showdowns, shady agencies, and 80s nostalgia, this flick is a good burn.
American way of death, Homer. Without any falderall.
The Dark Half, 1993. Thad Beaumont is a respectable novelist known for highbrow literary works that don't exactly sell. Secretly, he writes brutal bestsellers under the pseudonym George Stark, which rake in cash and fame. Tired of the charade, Thad stages a faux funeral for Stark, burying the pen name once and for all. But the pen name refuses to stay dead. A physical incarnation of Stark, also played by Timothy Hutton, begins a murder spree, killing Thad's agent, editor, and others linked to his writing career. The crimes leave evidence pointing straight to Thad, forcing Sheriff Alan Pangborn to suspect him. Thad discovers that as a child, doctors removed remnants of a parasitic twin from his brain. Now that twin has manifested in the form of Stark. Thad experiences a psychic connection to each killing. Stark, meanwhile, is rotting physically unless Thad writes another dark novel to sustain him. The catchphrase, "The sparrows are flying again," resurfaces, referencing the birds that escort souls to the afterlife. In a final confrontation, Stark kidnaps Thad's wife Liz, handing Thad finish one last Stark novel. Thad fights back, and a flock of supernatural sparrows descend upon Stark, ripping him to pieces and carrying him off. With Stark gone, Thad is clear, yet the ordeal leaves him shaken, knowing his own mind once nurtured that monstrous alter ego. George A. Romero adopted King's tale of a writer's alter ego gone rogue, and The Dark Half was born as a mature, atmospheric chiller. Timothy Hutton carries the dual role effective. Thad's conflicted desperation collides with Stark's sadistic swagger. Critics applaud this grown-up approach to horror. Fewer cheesy scares, nightmares and more psychological unease. Still, the third act can feel uneven, and some longtime fans expected a bigger payoff. Romero's signature style, brooding visuals, slow burn tension, works well until the supernatural flock of sparrows breaks in. That moment divides viewers, though many find it a satisfying close. It may not be an all-time Stephen King classic, but The Dark Half stands as a thoughtful spin on the Jekyll-Hyde theme, anchored by solid performances and eerie small-town menace.
Take your hands off that little
Mom, I didn't do anything bad!
Hearts in Atlantis, 2001. Middle-aged Bobby Garfield returns to his childhood home after news that his old friend, John Sully Sullivan, has died in an accident. Memories from the 1960s flood back. Young Bobby lived with his widowed, self-absorbed mom, Liz, and spent summer days with his best pals, Sully and Carol Gerber. Their world changed when Ted Brodigan, an older gentleman with hidden psychic abilities, became their boarder. Ted offered Bobby $1 a week to read him newspapers aloud, though he really wanted Bobby to watch for the mysterious low men who signal their arrival by posting missing pet flyers. Ted's abilities and the suspicion that shady forces were chasing him stirred both wonder and fear. Bobby felt a fatherly bond with Ted, something Liz never provided. Tensions rose when local bullies injured Carol and Ted stepped in, revealing deeper truths about the town and Liz's own secrets. Eventually, the low men closed in. Liz, misunderstanding Ted's intentions, helped them unwitting. He was taken away, telling Bobby he cherished their time together. Liz uprooted Bobby soon after. Decades later, standing in his old abandoned home, Bobby mourns Sully's passing and recalls Ted's kindness. That summer shaped him, reminding him how fleeting innocence can be when adults' shadows loom large. Hearts in Atlantis blends King's soft nostalgia with a subtle mysticism, delivering a calm, reflective story, less about literal horror and more about the bittersweet glow of youth. Anthony Hopkins' performance as Ted Brodigan infuses each scene with gentle warmth, though some critics find the overall film too sluggish or sentimental. Director Scott Hicks captures a languid small-town vibe, leaving some viewers craving more dramatic conflict. Others applaud its stirring yet familiar approach, praising the way it balances sweet childhood friendships with the uneasy threat of Ted's pursuers. It's no roller coaster, it's more of a fond recollection tinged with sadness. If you like King's quieter tales about lost innocence, Hearts in Atlantis offers a wistful summer memory worth revisiting, even if it never fully ignites.